You are playing a gacha game. We're playing a pay-to-win game. I'm playing gacha games. I'm playing Honkai Star Rail. I'm playing Zenless Zone Zero. I'm playing Wuthering Waves so that I could fucking goon to my waifus and make them really fucking strong. Okay? That's it. Hoyoverse is becoming too greedy. Let's take a look at what this is. Corpo being greedy? No way!
So I've noticed that recently Hoyoverse has been taking a different approach to the way they handle their monetization, and while it has been brewing for a long time, just recently it has seemed they might be going a little too far with it.
Okay.
So I wanted to make a video about it. This is my first video in this style, so I want to know what you guys think about it. Before we start, I need to lay out what type of player I am. I am max level in both Honkai Star Rail and Genshin Impact. I have completed all the endgame. I typically pull just the character and sometimes their weapon. I have a few dupes of some characters, and I have one C6, that being Hu Tao. I buy the Welkin and the Battle Pass in both games, but I've recently stopped buying the Battle Pass in Genshin because I just don't really need it anymore. I'm not against spending money in any of these games, but over time I felt the want to do so much less unless I really like that character, and watching Hoyoverse get a lot more daring with their monetization over time has made that a lot worse.
Okay. I feel like definitely what you can expect from Genshin Impact is not necessarily them being more player friendly as they go, because you have to understand the idea behind these Genshin games is the idea of farming FOMO, and how their player base is, the longer they go, the more loyal players they have to farm. So I do kind of see why they would be pushing their boundaries for, you know, basically trying to milk their community more. I do think that is like, you would expect that. You could expect that.
Now I'll admit, I really do think Honkai Star Rail did start out as a generous game. They gave out a lot of pulls on launch, much more than Genshin Impact, and had a lot of people were very happy about that. In the first few,
it's like 170, it's like 43 more pulls.
Happy about that. In the first few months of the game, you didn't have to pull light cones since they were nothing but stat boosts.
Sure.
The only thing you had to worry about was getting some elemental coverage, which doesn't really matter anymore. You could have fun running your Dill and Fall of an Aeon and still clearing with no issues. And Honkai Star Rail appeared even more generous with the release of Dr. Ratio, who...
That was his video? What the fuck?
Star Rail appeared...
Wait, this is the most replayed part of this video. Is this actual...
Even more generous...
Did they actually do this? Wait, this seems fake.
Dr. Ratio, who is completely free and didn't require you to pull him at all. He was also the beginning of the famous Genshin can never meme, which in hindsight was kind of stupid, but it was also kind of correct.
Yeah.
Because to this day, we have never gotten a free limited 5-star in Genshin Impact. Anyways, this generosity seemed to slow down a lot with the release of Penacony and...
Wait, really? There's never? That's crazy. I did not know that.
And especially Acheron in 2.1. If you were to ask me what character I thought was the most harmful to Honkai Star Rail's game state, Acheron would be my answer 99% of the time. I could honestly probably make a whole video about her impact on the game alone. Not only did she kick off the insane damage bloat, but she also had a very, very broken light cone.
Oh,
now,
really?
If you don't know, Acheron really likes debuffs. Her team needs to get 9 of them so she can launch a very powerful ultimate.
Oh, is she not like a dot like comp then? Or I guess like debuffs you could have slow too.
The bulk of her damage. Her light cone gives 2 stacks on her ult instead of 1, along with a big damage boost and crit damage. It is probably the single biggest jump between S0 and S1 in the game. The reason I have such an issue with this light cone, as well as a few other light cones, is because it locks her ability to use her kit behind it. If we look at older units, most of them did not do that. They simply gave stat bonuses instead. Look at Jing Yuan's light cone. It gives an insane amount of stats and is a pretty universal option for a lot of Erudition characters.
Yeah, that one was pretty good for every Erudition.
I like light cones like that, but Acheron's light cone is game-changing. This is very much a situation of creating the problem and selling you the solution. If they're going to do this, why don't they just make the weapon banner guaranteed?
Money!
I don't see the issue with that if they want to make light cones borderline required for certain units. And I don't think this would lose them money either. If anything, I wouldn't be surprised if it actually increased player spending because then they would have the security knowing they can get the weapon with no drawbacks. Wuthering Waves already has it and everybody loves it, so I don't really see why they don't do it here. Another problem is now...
I mean, he said it before, it's money. It's money and player expectations. Players don't expect it to be better.
Now they're trying to sell you the character and light cone package and or the entire team comp instead of just the character. You wanted to play Break? Well, you need to get Ron May and Firefly, who are both running at the same time. You wanted to play follow-up? Hopefully you have enough for Facedown and Robin, because they're both running at the same time or right after each other. Maybe if
I mean, I don't really think this is like totally fair. I don't really agree with like, oh, it's so bad to package characters that work together in the same banner. I think that's actually fine because like the idea is Robin was released before, and if you had Robin, you can get her. Or now if you don't have Robin, you want Face Shao and you need to get Robin, you can within the same banner. I don't really think and the idea of pushing the support of the character's banner later makes it's harder to communicate that idea to the player base that these characters are better, so we're gonna push them one half patch after. Yes, yeah, I don't really think this is like bad. I don't see this at all. I think it's very clear because it's all about like marketing and how you're packaging this information, how you're packaging this deal, right? It's like, hey, here you go. Here's a new DPS, and here are the good supports for them, so that if you want them, you can spend. I mean, like they're gonna get rerun eventually. Like Fei Xiao's gonna get rerun eventually. If you really want the time to farm it, why don't you just roll for Robin now and get Fei Xiao later? Like she's gonna get rerun. I don't know.
the same time or right after each other. Maybe if I wasn't greedy and stupid, it wouldn't be an issue. But while I am glad the reruns
Okay, he's using the memes.
faster now, it's kind of a bit much. Personally, I would have liked it if we just got the one set of 3 like we did back in 2.5. But when you have 8 characters running in one patch, including 2 new characters,
That's not a bad thing, dude. It's not. It's not a bad thing. More options is not a bad thing. I don't understand like why we have to what is I don't understand the logic behind it. Just don't you don't have to. You don't have to pull for the Herta right now. You only need to do it right now if you cannot wait. And if you need the other characters, then just wait. If you need the supports for her, just wait. Like, it's not that bad. You don't have to pull for everyone. You just pull for what you're missing. Just pull for what you don't have.
patch, including 2 new characters, and still not being given enough J's to even guarantee
It's like I don't need look, like this banner that's currently in Honkai Star Rail, I'm not pulling for Aglaya. I'm not. I need to hit Robin, right? Because I didn't get Robin when she was running before. So I'm gonna get Robin. Like I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, I need Aglaya. I need Aglaya. I need Aglaya and Robin. I need Aglaya, Robin, and whatever the fuck else is running. It's like, no, it's just like Aglaya's probably gonna rerun later in the future, and probably when I can afford her. So I'll just wait.
including 2 new characters, and still not being given enough J's to even guarantee one is I don't know about that. And not to mention the power creep, where your characters fall to irrelevancy very quickly. This game's
See, I am more in like Mr. Pokey has some really dumbass takes. One of them being the FTC or like why parenting should be mentioned in the same like article or same tweet as the FTC decision for Genshin Impact. But I do agree with him a little bit on this in that like there is your character becoming weaker relevant related to all the other ones. I don't think it's like that crazy. I don't think it's that pronounced because when people say power creep, when people say like their characters aren't good anymore, they're really saying that they just can't zero cycle with them anymore. They're not saying they can't clear content. They're not saying they can't 10 cycle the content. They're not saying like they're just saying they can't zero cycle anymore. It's like that's not crazy. That's not a crazy thought that the content is going to get harder. It's like it's not that bad. The power creep I feel like is a little overblown if I'm going to be honest.
generosity is a facade. Think about it like this. If your game gives out 150 pulls, but you need 150 of them to keep out the end game, then are you really generous? And I feel like recently in 3.0, all of this came around together in one big pile of dog shit.
I mean, like, relative to who, right? There are a lot of games that don't give you jack shit, but ask you to basically pony up a lot of cash to be relevant. I'm pretty sure Summoner's War works like that, especially with the fact that they're PvP. Epic 7 is also a PvP game. There's a lot of games that ask you to put in a lot of money. This is a very Hoyo pilled or Hoyoverse generation thought to have, that these games are not being generous, because like a bunch of other gacha games, the reason why these games are so mainstream and so popular is because they are way more generous than the other games that are also gacha, very monetary, predatory, monetary. I don't know, fuck it, how do you say it? Like those other gacha games that are not these games, essentially. That are not like super anime, not Hoyoverse centric. There are a lot of like predatory mobile games out there.
Every character rerunning was meta, except for Silverwolf, probably because Hoyo fucking hates her. The Herta is another example of blatant power creep, so yay. I'm sure she will.
Look, this is the thing. The only reason why Honkai Star Rail is on my taskbar right now, you see my mouse right here? The only reason why Honkai Star Rail is on my bar right now is because the Herta caught me up. Like it gives me a good team without me like being like, oh fuck, I miss Robin. Oh fuck, I miss Ronmei. Oh fuck, blah 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 blah. It's fine. It's not like these characters being stronger incrementally. It's not like a bad thing. It's only really bad if you like. I don't really even understand the point of view. It's just like, oh my god, my waifu's not as good anymore. Just slightly. Like, I don't know. I don't get it. It's free to play friendly. It's to get returning players. It's to get new players into the game. Like it's not without benefit, I guess. And what is the sacrifice is the question. What are we giving up by making these characters so strong? The fact that your character is just a little weaker when you look at it in relevance to each other. It's not the end of the world. Your character can still clear the content, probably still very comfortably too. I don't think like that's a big deal. The fact that the Herta came out and that she works with 4-star units that were basically available since launch, that being Serval, that being Herta herself, that was great. That's amazing for me. The fact that she works with that and like another free-to-play healer, Gallagher, and I just have to fill out the third slot with Remembrance Trailblazer. Like that was that's amazing. That's great. That's the only reason why I'm somewhat keeping up with Honkai Star Rail right now, is because I have a decent team now. Like this is like a great benefit, and the cost, the sacrifice is like, okay, maybe your waifu is not as strong related to all the rest of the cast. And it's like, who cares? It's not that big of a deal.
Will require her light cone by the time her rerun comes around. Then we got Aglia. She's a very good character. I even zero cycled with her.
She's not. Aglaia is a good character, but she's not like really cracked. She's not like, a lot of people suggest against pulling her. So she's kind of like antithetical to the whole power creep narrative. I'm pretty sure. I don't know how he's going to say this.
Now I can impress my 21.7% female viewer ratio. She wants Sunday. That's understandable. But what I have a problem with is her E1. Her E1 gives her 20 energy on hit, and she wants all the energy she can get. She still works without it, but I hate it when they lock what should have been in their base kit behind Eidolons. What Eidolons and Constellations should be is quality of life features and just damage increases, not removing the bullshit that Hoyoverse puts into their kit on purpose.
It should be quality of life increases and damage increases. What is the energy then? The energy is more uptime for more of the DPS rotations. The energy is also quality of life. I don't get that. Like that is damage and quality of life. Like what should Eidolons have?
It once again feels like yet another example of creating the problem and selling the solution.
Of course it is. You are playing a gacha game. We're playing a pay-to-win game. If I wanted to play a fair game, if I wanted to play a competitive game where the problem didn't have a solution sold with it, I'd be playing fucking Marvel Rivals, okay? I wouldn't be playing this fucking game. I'm playing this game. I'm playing gacha games. I'm playing Honkai Star Rail. I'm playing Zenless Zero. I'm playing Wuthering Waves so that I could fucking goon to my waifus and make them really fucking strong, okay? That's it. And I had to pay up. I have to pony up because that's what the fuck anime games are at right now. Anime games are locked behind gotcha mechanics, and it's really depressing. But I mean, hey, it works. There is some fun to be had with it. To be fair, okay. Like if I wanted to play a fair game though, where it was competitive, where the solution wasn't being sold, I'd be playing Marvel Rivals. You would too, but you like the solution being sold. You like your waifus being really strong and solving all the problems. Like that's why you're playing this game.
And another issue I've noticed is a lack of viable 4-stars. We have very few
As long as it looks pretty, as long as they got booba, as long as they got thighs, as long as they have like really cute anime illustrations, you're gonna eat that shit up.
Another issue I've noticed is a lack of viable 4-stars. We have very few 4-stars that are actually good and used often. Out of the 20 plus 4-stars in the game, I can count the good ones on one hand, and that is a problem when 4-stars make up the
March, Pella, whatever the fuck that guy is, Tingyun, Gallagher. I mean, maybe it's not a 4-star, but Trailblazer is free and a huge part of almost anyone's comp. The Herta makes it so that Serval and Herta are really good, which is cool. Besides that, though, yeah, this is probably right.
34% of the roster. At least in Genshin, you have characters like Bennett and Xingqiu who are still amazing to this day, but there's nothing like that in Star Rail, and I can feel it when there's a great
True. I definitely hear those two characters being pushed a lot, or like that they're very good.
amazing to this day, but there's nothing like that in Star Rail, and I can feel it when there's a grand total of 1 4-star I use.
But I think Trailblazer counts. I think Trailblazer counts among Bennett and Xingqiu, or whatever the fuck you call him, because Trailblazer is free and really fucking good. I think Gallagher counts. Gallagher is free and wait, hold on. Wait, yeah, he's got like 5 of them here. Wait, what? He's got 5 of them here, and there are like a couple other good ones that are not being mentioned, and he's comparing it to Bennett and Xingqiu? So this is better. I don't know what bro's saying, honestly. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not too sure where we're going with this.
But there's nothing like that in Star Rail, and I can
Like,
feel it.
am I crazy? Like, he basically said like, oh, we have 2 good free characters in Genshin, and we have like 5 good characters, free characters in Honkai Star Rail, and like we don't have enough. Like, am I crazy? Is that not what he said?
When there's a grand total of 1 4-star I use on a daily basis. And the 4-star problem is amplified even farther when you realize that we only got 2 new banner 4-stars in all of 2024, and we have no new Amphore's 4-star in the drip marketing as of now, meaning that the earliest our next 4-star could be is around 5.3, which is around June. That's bad. So now is not only a problem with the lack of viable 4-stars, but it's also a problem with not having any new 4-stars. Like, look at this selector.
Okay, that's fair, sure. But like, you literally compared 5 good 4-stars, Trailblazer you're not mentioning, Herta and Serval in the case of the Herta you're not mentioning, to literally 2. Are there other good 4-stars in Genshin? I mean, maybe, but that's probably because the game's also been out for 5 years and has a huge fucking roster. But I do think like these 4-stars are pretty good.
No new Amphore's 4-star in the drip marketing as of now, meaning that the earliest our next 4-star could be is around 5.3, which is around June. That's bad. So now is not only a problem with the lack of viable 4-stars, but it's also a problem with not having
Is it that bad? Wasn't Moe's released pretty recently too? Like,
any new 4-stars. Like, look at this selector. Yeah, this
yeah, wait, these are free too. Wait, those are free.
So now is not only a problem with the lack of viable 4-stars, but it's also a problem with not having any new 4-stars. Like, look at this selector.
Sure, I think Hanya, I'm not too sure how good Hanya is, but Tingyun is good. I thought Hook was 5 stars, I'll be honest. I thought she was a 5-star unit. But I mean, there's Tingyun.
Yeah, this shit is so ass. These are just some of the
Is it?
reasons why I kind of don't like pulling for newer characters much anymore, because then I know that if I don't get everything for them,
I mean, those are the characters that aren't free because Gallagher is free, right? And I don't know if Tingyun is free.
there's no 4-star replacement, then put me in the corner of a hotel room and call me Sneeko, because
Yeah, as far as I understand, like there's no good gacha game with a bunch of fucking 4-stars besides Genshin, but that's because it's a 5-year-old game. Like Wuthering Waves, the 4-stars are ass. Zenless Zone Zero, we have a lot of good 4-stars, but it's not like enough to build your whole team. Like we have Sokaku, Lucy, Nicole. We have Anby, who's okay. She's all right. DPS units, we have Piper. Piper is really good. Piper is still really good, especially M6. Besides that, I mean, they're playable, but they're not like crazy. But yeah, I don't know. There's not like
I am getting cucked. But as greedy as Honkai Star Rail is becoming, I don't think it's as bad as Genshin Impact. That's right, Genshin, you aren't safe for me. I've noticed ever since the beginning of Natlan, they've been getting pretty bold with their monetization, but that doesn't mean it wasn't there before. There was a weapon banner not having weapon charting. Luckily, we did get it fixed. Hail Tectone! There's also characters like Hu Tao who really wants her C1. Trust me, I've played C0 and C1, and yeah, C1 does make her a lot easier to play. But as the game aged, things started to change. Throughout Fontaine, we got characters like Risley who really do like a C1, but Natlan, oh boy. Natlan brought it to a whole new level. They made pretty much every Natlan unit insane for exploration, but only in Natlan.
sure.
So unless you want to use your Shalom and roller skates for a grand total of 3 seconds, you aren't going anywhere outside of Natlan. But if you do want to use them for exploration outside of Natlan, then you need to shell out another $300 because a lot of the Natlan characters have their Nightsoul usage reduced outside of combat in their C1s, meaning more exploration. They also added the new Nightsoul mechanics on all of the characters. With that, you really want to play Natlan units in order to take full advantage of the Hero of Cinder City set. I won't go into too much detail about all the characters, otherwise this video would be way too long, but there's one character in specific that made this all just feel so much worse. And that character's not other than the Archon of the region herself, Mavwika. I don't like Mavwika's kit.
Okay.
Now, typically Archons will take advantage of the unique mechanics that they bring in their region. Think of Nahida with Dendro or Farina with the HP drain. And Mavwika is no exception to this. But the issue here is that Mavwika is a DPS. She can work as a sub DPS support, but main DPS is where she shines.
Sure.
Meaning that the team is made to support her. Mavwika needs stacks of Fighting Spirit in order to launch her burst nuke.
Is he gonna complain about her kit being locked behind E1?
Fighting Spirit charges faster using Night Soul points. This means that she requires Natlan use in order to fully function properly. She works okay without them, but she heavily wants them. Mavwika is a lot like a shonen protagonist. While she might be kind of strong on her own, when she gets the power of friendship on her side, she becomes unbeatable. This is basically the equivalent of if Farina's buffs only worked on Fontaine characters. I think you can see why that's a problem. Imagine you skipped early Natlan.
I mean, I think this is a fair kind of take. I do think the Natlan grouping is a little cringe. At the same time, I can understand why they would do it too. I do think what every kind of new region, I think this is like an idea that Genshin devs are probably having, is that Genshin's a pretty old game. It's 5 years. And we want to release a new region with a lot of excitement, a lot of hype, and hope to bring in new and returning players. And just like in the case of me being able to roll for the Herta and basically having 3 out of 4 good members, almost BIS slots in a team, they kind of want that same effect to be in Natlan, in that if you join in Natlan and you keep rolling for Natlan characters, you're going to have a really good team that synergize very well with each other and work really well. So, like, I can see that. I do think, though, it would be probably better just to make them a lot more powerful. Like, that's it. Like, power creep is a solution. It's not the disease. It's a solution. It's a cure, you know? This is kind of predatory. This is, like, not very good, I think. And at least this is what even the law has, like, fought against. And what I'm talking about is with Grand Blue Fantasy. Grand Blue Fantasy had, like, I'm pretty sure they had, like, 2 premier units, 2 limited units, or maybe a unit and their weapon that worked way too well together, and basically, or maybe like didn't function at all, or like there was like new functionality when you combined the two assets. I think it's either two units or a unit and their weapon, and it's like crazy amounts of functionality, and that is something that I'm pretty sure was changed, or like there were laws that were put in place to basically prevent that practice. So this is kind of like a very soft form of that. So this is probably actually really bad and probably shouldn't happen.
Units for Mabuika, and then you find out that she needs them to be at her best. But don't worry, the game is nice to you, you see. They give you a free Kachina to play with your Mabuika.
Oh! Ew! Dude!
I can't be the only person who feels like them giving us these bad characters out for free almost feels like an insult at this point. But if you don't want to play Kachina, and I can't blame you because she's not too good, don't worry, there's another Natlan character that's running on Banner too that works perfectly with Mabuika, Sit Lolly. But there is a little problem. Hoyo decided to run both of these brand new characters on the same banner phase.
Yeah.
This was the first time in Genshin history this has happened. And
That
so
is-
add insult to injury.
I don't think anyone can really make excuses for that. And before some retard comes in and says, "Oh, but didn't you want more options? Isn't more options good?" No, you fucking retard. You have two limited characters, two new limited characters to have to wait for the next one to rerun when the Honkai Star Rail situation is rerunning just like old characters. It's a huge difference. It's a huge, huge difference. No one, the standard practice and the accepted practice that's been going on for at least 5 years now is that every character, every new limited character has a banner and has a phase all to themselves. This is not standard at all.
The Lantern Right rewards were in the second phase, meaning you lost all of those because Dawei needs to buy a sixth yacht. This was one of the scummiest things Hoyoverse has ever done.
It's
You know,
bad.
I kind of wanted to pull from Mabuika because she's really fucking hot. But this decision was so bad I couldn't do it. This isn't the first time I've skipped characters
Really?
because I don't agree with the price point or the practices, and this won't be
He skipped her because he didn't pull any of the Natlin? That's kind of funny. Yeah, I don't know. I do think that it does kind of suck that Malwika doesn't really work very well with other characters that aren't Natlin characters, or that I don't know. She underperforms compared to if she works with Natlin characters. I do think that's kind of cringe.
be the last. I can tell they wanted to milk as much money out of us, and that was just disappointing, to be honest. It's weird because last year, the internet was broken over 3 polls, but then when this happens, I barely saw anybody talking about it. And the greed isn't only on the characters, it's also extending to the enemies too. These new abysses have enemies that want Night Soul to break their shields. This shit was so annoying I had to bust out my benched Arlecchino to hopefully normal attack it until it died. I can probably make a whole video on the shortcomings of Natlin, and their newer approach to the way they monetize their game just made it so much worse. I do like Genshin, but man, these decisions are just getting worse and worse. As for Zenless Zone Zero, I don't really think it has any issues with greed yet. I've lost more gallons to that game than I have dollars, so I'm not really worried.
Okay.
I will say the Wenjins are getting kind of ridiculous, and there might be a bigger issue with power creep. I
think this Wenjin, just as a stat stick, is fine. Or like it's good because it's a stat stick. Because you do have crit damage increased by 50% and also crit rate.
ridiculous, and there might be a bigger issue with power creep if we keep going higher than Miyabi, but we're gonna have to wait and see.
Oh, so Astra and Evelyn aren't higher than Miyabi. Oh, so we don't have power creep. Oh, thank you. Thank you, AX. Thank you for your confirmation there.
Now I know I've received comments about how it's a gacha game, and of course it's greedy and it's crossing into predatory, and you're right. Gacha games being greedy is about as common as chips and salsa at a Mexican restaurant. Of course companies want to make money, but what's also important is how they do it. From what I've seen, Hoyo tends to skirt a fine line between being just generous enough to keep people somewhat satisfied, but not satisfied enough to the point where they don't want to spend money on it.
I mean, yeah. Like, I feel like a lot of these videos that we watch is like, this is something new. This is a revelation to them. It's like, oh my god, a company skirting the lines and trying to see as much it can get away with without like crossing that line of pissing people off. Like, yeah, that's Yeah, that's what they do. Yeah, that's that's what every company, like not every, but like majority of the companies, especially live service paid models, do. That's kind of what they do.
And while this makes sense, it feels like they've been more on the stingy side of things as of late.
Okay.
If they go too much in a negative direction, while it might benefit them in the short term, I really don't think people stick around it for the long term. Except the Hoyo shills.
Well, well, he said it himself, except the Oyo shows, right? I mean, people do. That's the thing. People do stick around. That people have stuck around. A lot of people have stuck around, and that's why it's just not gonna change that much.
Of course. And we've seen clear examples of games that are much more fair with their monetization and respect their players, and they have a very dedicated fan base. Take Wuthering Waves, for example.
Dude, Wuwa videos, Kurobots, you guys really are like, you guys have a crazy algorithm. You guys have so many people watching and just eating this shit up. I mean, like, to be fair, this is like Wuthering Waves Kuro games. You're doing very well. You are pushing the genre in a good direction. You do have a lot of quality of life. Wuthering Waves is crazy. Kuro glazing is super effective, you know?
As much as people want to pit the fandoms against each other, Wuwa fans love the game for good reason, myself included.
Yes, that is absolutely true.
The weapon banner is guaranteed, and the pity
Yep.
is 80 instead of 90. You can buy dupes in the shop. I can't speak for everyone, but I am much more willing to spend money on that game because I know it's a lot more reasonable.
Yep,
I may-
and a lot of other people are doing that too. But definitely what is more important than these quality of life is new content and is exciting content and good content. And they definitely delivered on that with Renacida. 100% they did.
May sound like a curlbot for this, but if giving a game its sweet flowers and mint is being a curlbot, then I guess I'm a curlbot. I know this video is probably going to be a bit controversial, but I really hope Hoyoverse improves the monetization does better going forward.
It's okay. The Kurobots found it before the Hoyo shills, so.
I want a guaranteed weapon banner. I want more viable 4-stars. I want to have parts of kits not locked behind eidolons or light cones. I've seen people say that these games should be void of criticism because it's a gacha game or it's free. This is completely false.
That is false. That is absolutely false for sure. We definitely need to at least push the idea that these games can improve and ought to improve.
This company is worth billions of dollars, and if anything, they should be held to the highest criticism possible. And the thing is, this company is what other games would look towards for a successful gacha game, meaning that all the stupid things that Hoyo puts in their game, case in point, the 50-50 on weapons, could end up in other games by other companies. And as a player, I don't want to have to deal with that in every other game that I play.
I honestly don't think that is going to be the norm. I feel like the genre is what develops, and new practices, especially for something like Wuthering Waves, is what would be adopted, because I do think Wuthering Waves made enough of an impact. I do think Wuthering Waves has a good enough track record of success for companies to want to adopt their models more than Genshin, at least to try and set themselves apart from Genshin and just present themselves as a viable alternative. What you won't see very likely is other gacha games doing more than Wuthering Waves. I don't know if that will happen. I don't know if it'll happen that games will try to innovate more than Wuthering Waves, because then you're just kind of giving away too many things for free when the player base doesn't really expect it to, right? They don't expect you to be so nice or expect you to have so many player-friendly or not predatory features.
Luckily, Wuthering Waves significantly improved it, and there are other games out there too with good gachas, and I'm hoping other games in the future do the same. The fact that a very successful gacha game doing what Hoyo couldn't in real time makes it feel so disappointing on Hoyo's end. Will any of this happen? Unlikely. But I love these games and I want them to improve. All I hope is that we see better in the future. Honkai Star announced some changes recently, so maybe we'll see some monetization changes. And as for Genshin,
I don't know.
yeah, you guys are cooked. Before you click off, I just want to say thank you for reaching the end of this video. This is my first video like this, so I apologize if it's not the best, but if you guys want more videos like these, then let me know. And any feedback is greatly appreciated. And if you enjoyed, I really appreciate you subscribing. This video took a lot of work and it really helps me out a lot. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
I think that video was pretty fun. You know, at the very least, he goes over his points. He explains it pretty well. I feel like a lot of things that I disagree with. I don't think that, like, the free unit thing, like, I think HSR has plenty of free units. I don't think Aglaya is, like, a pushed power creep unit, especially because she kind of requires E1, and she's just not very strong without Sunday and other premium members. I do think that the Genshin hate is a little overblown, but I do think that the fact that, like, a lot of functionality behind, not functionality, but efficiency out of her kit is locked behind teaming her up with other Natlan characters, I do think that's kind of cringe. I will agree with that. Zenless on Zero is good. I agree with some points, but yeah. Either way, my thoughts on this video, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Live every day,